Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the chrisvossshow.com, the chrisvossshow.com. Here in blog post, I want to share the course review, the latest in social media and technology. This is one of our phone reviews. We're doing a versus comparison of two different phones. Both are on the Android operating system. One is the Samsung Galaxy S3, and one is the Motorola Droid Razr Maxx HD. So Razr Maxx HD just most recently coming out. It's a very powerful phone, and so let's compare these two and talk about the differences between them and how they compare against each other. So we'll do that. We'll also show you the cam work at the end of this video and let you know what we think about each one of them. So let's get into this. The Samsung Galaxy S3 specifications, dimensions, all that good stuff. We're looking at the device. It's a height of 5.38 inches, 2.78 inches in width, and 0.34 inches in thickness. On the Droid Razr Maxx HD, we're looking at a device that is 5.19 in height, 2.67 in width, and 0.37 in thickness. On the S3, the weight of it is a 4.69 ounces weight. On the Maxx HD, you're looking at a weight of 157 grams, and I should switch that over, 5.54 ounces against the grams on the S3. Might as well give them to you at this point, 133 grams. So, on the S3, we're looking at a Super AMOLED capacitive touchscreen, 16 million colors, 720 by 1280 pixels, 4.8 inches with a 306 ppi pixel density. On the Droid Maxx, we're looking at on the screen is an OLED full color resolution, 720 by 1280 pixels, 4.7 diagonal screen, Super AMOLED. They are both running on an Android 4.04 at this current point in time. We should point out that the Samsung is from AT&T. It's AT&T.com is where you can go see all the wonderful phones reviewed from AT&T, and also with Verizon Wireless on the Motorola Droid. You can go to their wonderful website at VerizonWireless.com. It's VerizonWireless.com. Be sure to visit both companies as they send us the phones. Thanks to you guys for sharing it with us, and check out all the wonderful phones they have on each of their websites. So let's get down into this some more with the devices. What we're looking at on their build with the Samsung Galaxy S3, it's a 4.04 ice cream sandwich on it right now. Hopefully it'll be eventually brought up to Jelly Bean. It's got a dual core processor in it, and let's see, what else are we looking at? Micro SD, you can put a micro SD up to 64 gigabytes of RAM that you can take and put in the device. On the Razr Maxx HD, we're looking at 1.5 gigahertz dual core processor, 32 gigabytes of RAM storage, 1 gigabyte of RAM, 32 gigabytes of internal storage. And on the S3, it's got an 8 megapixel back camera and a 1.9 megapixel front-facing camera. Of course, on the back, it'll do 1080p, 30 frames per second. Also, the Motorola Droid will do 1080p, 30 frames per second on the out the back for video. On the back camera, it has an 8 megapixel camera on the back, and on the front camera, it has a resolution of 1.3 megapixels. Both have NFC technology and all the latest bells and whistles along those sort of lines. Now, the one key thing here about the two different devices is the battery is definitely different between the two. The battery is much smaller on the Galaxy Samsung S3, and I'm not seeing here on my notes what the battery size is, but I know it's considerably smaller. It's a 2100 milliamp battery on the S3. Now, comparatively, the Motorola Droid Razr Maxx HD has a battery of 3300 milliamp hours, so quite a bit more. In fact, I believe it's the largest for a cell phone. Just massive amounts of stuff they crammed into it. And as you can see, it's not much bigger than most cell phones that are out there. Now, the Samsung has a UI with a what we call an infinite swirl or infinite swipe, where you can infinitely swipe through its menus. It, of course, has all the customization you can do with a Android product. Most people really like that. With the Motorola, it has a thing where if you pull from left to right, you end up with a quick settings, where normally your quick settings are found by pulling down in the Samsung. You also do have the drop-down notifications in the Samsung, but or I'm sorry, in the Motorola, but a little bit different on their setup. Now you can page through here. You can set up the live tiles. You can set up the wallpaper, live wallpaper if you want to. You can do that. Not live tiles, live wallpaper. You can customize it just like you can any Android. Most people like those sort of features on the Android products. So really it's just what's comfortable for you, what you want, and of course the vendor makes a difference in your decision as to what phone works best for you. Now, with the Samsung, at the top we have the speaker for calling, we have some sensors, we have a front-facing camera up there. Down below we have a home button and a capacitive touchscreen, 2 buttons. One is the menu button and one is a back button. With the Motorola we have a small speaker behind the logo here. We have front-facing camera. We have pretty much a capacitive touchscreen. You have a back button, a home button, and a recent apps button. In many of the menus they have built-in menus that drop down, so you don't need a menu thing. It's built into the UI and the software per se. So on the back of each device, what we have is your camera eye right here, your flash lamp here, and your speaker there for the Samsung Galaxy. The back does pop off. On the Droid Razr Maxx, you've got your camera eye, your flash lamp, speaker is here, and that's pretty much it. It has this really nice kind of, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like the Teflon, or not Teflon, but the bulletproof stuff backing look to it, and it's pretty awesome. Now the back does not come off on the Motorola. It's pretty much situated on. We'll show you how the SIM cards and everything work. On the Samsung Galaxy S3, the back does come off, and on the back you can see here you can put in your SIM card, your SIM card would be over here, and you can put in your micro SD card. It does have removable battery, which the Motorola does not. You can see here the speaker is a little bit bigger underneath the grid of the back. So you have that. Now let's take a look at walk around the top of the device. Across the top we have your earphone jack, which is right here. We have a small microphone hole here. Down the left side of the device we have your rocker button for your volume up and down that's in there. For the bottom we have a charging sync port. You can see right here we have a small microphone there, and on the right hand side we have a power button. It's got a nice curved back to it, feels really good ergonomically in the hand. With the top of the Motorola, you're looking at a earphone jack there at the top. It's got this really cool solid band around the outside of it. It gives it kind of a steel, tough look to it. There's a dual drawer here. One is for the micro SD expandable memory card to go into, and the other is for your SIM card to go into. Now you can see here we've got 2 ports here. We've got one that's a sync charging port, and the other that's an HDMI output port. So you can take this from micro HDMI or mini HDMI out to an HDMI TV, basically play this phone on your TV. Nothing to really see on the bottom here, just some screws for the body. And then on the right hand side we've got your volume rocker button right here, and then we've got your power button. The buttons have got like some rugged edges. They're pretty rough, and I think it's designed to be made that way so that it can take in, I don't know, just give that steel power thickness. I really like the phone because it feels almost like a mini brick, although it's not quite that heavy, but it just feels really solid in its build. Okay, so here we have the speedtest.net results for both devices. On the S3, you can of course see what's on there. That's an AT&T 4G network score. We have the Verizon wireless, of course, with the Motorola Droid. You can see there, and you can compare the two against each other. And of course, your mileage is going to vary depending upon what area you're in, how strong your signal is, and all that good stuff. We're in Los Angeles at this time, so depending upon where you're at, you want to check with each of your local companies to see what their respective strengths and antenna stuff is Okay, so here we are, the Geekbench 2 scores on both these devices. We have the S3 coming in at 1215, and we have the Droid coming in at 1577. You can see as we page down, and of course the great thing about these scores is you can take and pause them at any time, and with the apps you can take and download them to test them against devices you might have at home. You can see how both these devices compare. They're both running 4.04, and you can see their individual scores. Mainly I go off the total scores of each given segment. That's what's important, but like I said, you can pause it any time if you like. You want to see the individual scores, you can do that also. Okay, so now here you can see a side-by-side comparison display tester app. You can see the different colors side by side. I'll let you kind of choose as to which you like better. Both colors come in very rich and comparatively in high quality, so it's really up to you which one you might prefer. I can definitely see a lot more yellows in the Motorola Droid screen, and the green is much more broader and distinct. On the rest of the colors I'll let you choose because they're both pretty comparable. Okay, so here you can see our AnTuTu benchmark scores. We've got 97.91 on the S3 and 95.25 on the Droid. You can see some of the CPU breakdowns. In fact, let's get some detailed scores going there. You can compare the two scores against each other. Okay, so now we're using the benchmark and tuning app that you can find on the App Store. We've got place number 3 with the Samsung S3 at 97.71, and number 2 here on the list with 10,478 with the Droid. Okay, so here we're using the Passmark Performance Mobile Test. The system came in at 2143 against 2087 on the Droid, 4929 on the S3 compared to 5471 on the Droid, 4533 for the S3 compared to 2756 on the Droid, 2124 on memory tests against 2357, and 2D graphics tests 1867 on the S3 versus 1717 on the Droid, and finally 3D graphics 744 versus 748. Okay, so what we're looking here is the GPS test. This tests how well the device can get to within 10 feet of accuracy within itself and find itself on the planet. You can see how many different satellites it picks up and how close it gets to an accuracy of 10 feet. Over here we have 19 to 20 satellites in view against 11 to 12 in use on the S3, 23 in view against 13 in use on the Droid. Okay, so here you can see we've got a GL benchmark test 2.5.1. We're looking at two scores here. The 2.5 Egypt HD score on the S3 scored 2352, 21 frames per second against 2505, 22 frames per second on the Droid. The S3 scored on the off-screen 1480 frames at 13 frames per second against 1540 frames at 13 frames per second. Okay, so here we have with the Samsung S3 the billion counter app test. Did it in 21.068 seconds, 29.977 seconds with the Droid. Okay, so now using the AnTuTu 3D rating benchmark system, the Samsung S3 came in at 3046, comparatively 3142 for the Motorola Droid. Here you can see the Volano score of both devices. The S3 scored 1647, the HTML5 category, against 1712 on the Droid, and 577 on the metal category, compared against 614 on the Droid. Okay, so here you can see we've got the SQL benchmark app that we're running, RL benchmark for SQL Lite. This measures several different things, inserts and a few different other things. Selects, indexes, all that good stuff. In the end, it scored on the S3 28,177 against 26.088. Okay, so now let's take a look at the camera on the Galaxy S3. Okay, now what we have is we have a lot more customization you can do in adjusting your shots on the S3 and the Android product. Of course, this is what it's largely based upon. So there's a lot more you can do in adjusting the ISO settings and everything else on your camera with the Galaxy S3 over the iPhone 5. Many people love that. They love having the control over their features and the ability to pre-control their shots, if you will, instead of post-editing with apps as you would do on the iOS products. So let's take a look here. You've got your, of course, here on the right-hand side, your ability to switch between video and taking a camera shot. You also have your shutter button here, and you have in the bottom right your albums, if you will, or photo area. On the upper right, or the upper left-hand side, you have your ability to switch between front-facing, rear-facing camera. You can adjust if you want an auto flash or the flash turned on. This is what I'm talking about partially in where you have more control of a shot. You can do burst shots with the Samsung Galaxy S3, and what's great is it can do a set of burst shots, and you can decide which ones you like the best and erase the other ones, or you can continuously shoot very fast. You've got HDR, face detection, smile, beauty, panorama, all this sort of good stuff that you can do with the Samsung. Let's take a look at a few of the things here. There's different editors you can put and take and use to edit what your photos are going to look like ahead of time here, which is really nice. And what's really great is it will show you those that edit before you take the photo, or what the photo will look like during the time you're taking that photo with that edit. So that's very cool. A lot of people love that, and the iOS product you can't really do that. With settings, you can see here all the different ways that you can make settings for the Galaxy Samsung S3. You can adjust flash, shooting mode, scene mode, which is interesting. You can do several different scenes: portrait, landscape, night, sports, all these different ones. This is pretty standard for the Android OS product and gives you a whole lot more customization that you can take and do that you can't do on the iOS. Did I say Android product? If I got that wrong, that's fine. Timer effects you can see here that we can see there. We'll go back into settings. You can adjust your resolution up and down. You can also adjust white balance, ISO, metering that you might want to do, anti-shake, auto contrast, image quality, a whole lot of customizable things that you can do that you can't do with the iOS product. Let's switch over to video, and you'll see much of the same is true here. You've got different ways that you can actually limit stuff for text messaging, recording modes. You can create different settings, of course, for your images, like we talked about before, and you, of course, have the ability to control resolution, white balance, all that good stuff, video quality, and where you store it. You can store it, of course, on the micro SD card that you can take and use for this device, where in the case of the iOS product you cannot do that because it doesn't have an expandable memory. Let's take a look at pictures on both devices. Okay, so let's take a look at the camera on the device. It's got an impressive camera to it. It definitely is a great camera. I'm very impressed. On the Motorola, let's take a look. You've got, of course, zoom over here where you can zoom in and out. You can also set up to where you can use the volume button for zoom. In settings, you've got some interesting settings here. You've got your widescreen for 8 megapixel. You can also click this and it will go to 6 megapixels to match the screen. Kind of interesting. You can see here you can also use the volume key function as zoom. You can geotag. You can pick your storage location and shutter tone if you want a shutter tone to be able to take and do. I thought it was kind of interesting. It actually defaulted this 6 megapixel setup, and of course you can see it's the same for the 8 here. Of course, these are most of the things you get with most Android products. You've got pre-made effects you can take and put into play. You've got scenes you can take and do. The modes you can take and do. One thing that was kind of irritating, though, is it kept suggesting HDR mode in some cases, and I couldn't figure out a way to turn that suggestion off, which is really irritating. It's like a box that pops up here. It's probably the one thing I've kind of gone, what is that? The exposure here, of course, you can adjust, and of course you have your lamp exposure depending upon whether you're in shutter mode, camera mode, or video mode. As in this case we are in video mode, so let's go ahead and kill that light. You can see here we have several different functions. Of course, your normal video MMS, slow motion. That's kind of interesting. A lot of phones now are coming with the features of slow or fast motion already built into where you don't need an app, so you've got slow motion mode, which is pretty cool there. You can see here HD video resolution you can adjust. Of course, you got zoom once again with the thing.
And on the video resolution, you can choose between a number of definitions, depending upon what you want to fit your mode. You also have effects, of course, and you also have audio scenes that you can take and do, I guess, set up stereo, wind reduction, or concert. I guess wind reduction would be good, and the concert too, for that matter. And then, of course, the thing with the Droid is you can slide that to the side. You've got that at your beck and call if you ever need it. Of course, you have your ability to switch between your front and back-facing cameras. You've got your shutter buttons here, your active record button. You can, of course, switch between your camera and your video there. Let's take a look. Now, the one part that we weren't excited about with the camera was it has a hard time taking really good pictures and focusing in the flash lamp complete darkness situation. So we took this in complete darkness. If you can't tell, it's actually a closet. Okay, this one was a picture that came out fairly well. We had trouble with some of the other ones that we were taking and doing with them trying to get focus sharply on the image. A lot of the images came out blurry. In video mode, it's got a really great lamp to it. And in the video mode, it's got an awesome lamp, and it picks up very well and just shines the room. Not quite totally excited about how well it focused during the whole time, but it did an okay job. The video lamp we were very much more impressed with. It's got a huge lamp to it, just lights up really well, and you can see the colors pop and come out very well. So the only thing we just really struggled with was the camera taking a picture with the flash. Now, let's take a look at some other pictures. Here, once again, we're trying to take pictures with the flash in the complete darkness. This is shot into the sun, so there's a little bit of darkness to this photo, but it takes great outdoor pictures. Very awesome, beautiful colors, everything else on it. We're very impressed with it. Here you can see that there's the video player that's going on with it is shot in well-lit situations. Got a very beautiful video player and very beautiful screens, colors. You can see here us using the zoom. The zoom's awesome to use. Very impressed with it. We really like the camera on the phone. Here's another close-up shot. It takes really good close-up shots, and this was what really surprises about this video. This is a shot where I'm shooting probably an inch off of the wood, and most cameras can't handle getting this close unless you have a macro lens. This lens did really well. I was very surprised. And the Motorola camera is really good. You can tell, though, there's a lot of pickup of reds and greens. You'll see that also here in this photo, where it picks up a lot of reds and greens pretty heavily. Very much darker than they really are. Here with the apple and the orange and our marble top in the kitchen, really, oh wow, it comes out heavy even in a well-lit situation. So that was one of the trade-offs, but yeah, it takes awesome close-up shots, great video lamp shots, beautiful shots otherwise in both video and photographs. The only place we saw a struggle, like I said, was shooting in the dark, complete darkness with the flash and being able to get the flash focus sequence down properly. But overall, just awesome camera work. Definitely, I would say this is in my top 3 or 5 cameras that I love to be able to use on a regular basis with the mobile phone, I should say.
So all in all, we like both devices. We definitely know the Samsung Galaxy S3 from AT&T.com. You can go to the website and check it out at AT&T.com. You can also go to Verizon Wireless and check out the Droid Razr Maxx HD, which is an awesome phone, incredible battery life, and a very well built, probably one of my favorite Motorola phones so far, I should probably say. So I really like it. It's an awesome phone. Really love both phones. They're great, and they each have their own features and strengths. So be sure to go to both websites, AT&T.com and Verizon Wireless. Tell them Chris Voss sent you. Chris Voss tested, Chris Voss approved. Be sure to check back often to ChrisVossShow.com. Subscribe to all of our channels so that you can get access to all the wonderful, great things we have coming to us from the phone companies and all of our phone reviews. Thanks for coming by.